Arab allies in the Middle East now accusing the Obama administration of blocking efforts to send heavy arms directly to the Kurdish Peshmerga to fight ISIS on the ground in Iraq. The Daily Telegraph with this report out today saying, quote, they now say they are willing to, quote, go it alone in supplying heavy weapons to the Kurds, even if it means defying the Iraqi authorities and their American backers who demand that all weapons must be channeled through Baghdad. So what is going on here? Con Coughlin, the defense editor of the Daily Telegraph in London. Con, good morning. Welcome back to the program. Good to have you here today.
Good morning, Martha.
So it appears that they are getting pretty frustrated with the lack of action, the lack of targets being called in, and the fact that ISIS is fighting with weapons that were left behind by our own fighters on the ground in Baghdad, and they don't have very good stuff to fight with. So they're going to try to do it themselves, right?
That's right. Well, basically, it's an unholy mess, Martha. That's really what this story shows. I mean, I've been talking to some fairly senior Arab officials, military officials, diplomats with the Gulf states and other members of the coalition against Islamic State. And basically, there is an enormous sense of frustration with the leadership of the coalition from President Obama. And furthermore, as my story says today, there is sort of anger almost at the obstruction the Obama administration is placing in the way of their efforts to get an effective fighting force against Islamic State. And when you look on the picture on the ground, it is the Kurds in northern Iraq who've proved to be by far the most effective fighting force. And so the Arab states, Europeans, want to provide the Kurds with heavy weapons to support their efforts. And this is, I'm told, being blocked by the White House, which basically doesn't want to arm the Kurds because they're afraid of what that will do to Turkey, which, of course, is another player in this conflict.
But Turkey's not working with us on this anyway. I mean, Turkey wants us to take out Assad, and we won't do that. So why would we be bending over backwards to curry favor to Turkey when we're not really on the same page anyway?
Well, that's a very good question, Martha, and one that we'd like the White House to answer. But my understanding is that the Obama administration is still hopeful that they can persuade the Turks to come on board to police their border with joining Islamic State in northern Syria and take effective action to stop jihadists going backwards and forwards. Of course, some of those jihadists are coming from here in Britain and other countries. But I mean, it is a forlorn hope in my book. And of course, the real priority, particularly here in Britain, where we've just had 30 British people killed in that terrorist attack in Tunisia last week, it now looks as though that attack could well have been planned in Syria by Islamic State commanders there. So the top priority is to attack Islamic State in Syria. The Kurds do that very well, and say the Obama administration is blocking attempts to do that.
Yeah, and in Libya, it looks like they may have trained in eastern Libya as well. So I have a big question for you in terms of the UK and where they stand, because we know that the Gulf states are frustrated, there's no doubt. And we know that they feel there's a lack of commitment on the part of this White House to actually try to really take out ISIS. What about our good friends in the United Kingdom? Are they starting to separate from us on this as well?
No, I think where we stand at the moment is we are still working very much with Washington and following Washington's lead. There are some of us in London, like myself, who are very frustrated with this and think perhaps David Cameron should demonstrate the kind of leadership that Tony Blair did so effectively during the past decade in Iraq and Afghanistan. But for the moment, David Cameron seems to be tucked in behind President Obama's slipstream and really taking his lead from the White House. And of course, as I said, because of this recent terrorist atrocity in Tunisia, where we have 30 British dead, I think that is changing the political climate here in London. And today there's been a very sort of lively debate in the House of Commons about whether Britain should now take part in airstrikes against ISIL targets in Syria, which until now we haven't done.
Yeah. Interesting piece. Con, thank you very much. Good to speak with you today.
Only because they were Christians. The White House can't even acknowledge that they were anything but, quote, Egyptian civilians.
Is that what they call them today?
That's what the White House said. Now,
I missed that today. That's incredible.
President al-Sisi asked for American intelligence, targeting intelligence, before he led the strikes today. Didn't get it. King Abdullah of Jordan asked for intelligence data on targets to respond to the murder of a Jordanian aircraft pilot.
Well, the Kurds asked for support, too. The Kurds asked for support.
Begging for arms and ammo from the United States. Not one bullet has been delivered by the United States.
If I may, there's something that concerns me far more than that. In the euphoria, the delight of seeing all these cruise missiles taking off and the dramatic footage and the targeting footage, I think all the analysts and all of us have been missing one really big thing. These strikes last night were designed to limit terrorist casualties. These were not serious manful strikes. And I'll give you the evidence. Why did we go in at night? There was no air defense threat. Could have done it in broad daylight. If you wanted to kill terrorists, you would have hit those headquarters and compounds and logistics sites at 10 or 11 in the morning when they were crowded with leaders, staff officers, flunkies, etc. Instead, we hit empty buildings at night. If we knocked down antennas, we blew out windows. That is not the way to defeat terrorists who behead Americans. We should have gone in the morning, gone in heavy, and kill. Let me give you the measure of success in airstrikes against ISIS. It is not knocking out windows. It is acres and acres of dead terrorists.
The individual rebels they've got on the monthly payroll, but some 6,000 Syrians have volunteered to participate in America's effort to train and equip what's supposed to be a politically moderate Syrian military force. I'm not sure why the Pentagon believes any rebel in Syria would be politically moderate, but that's really their plan. Okay, so it's ridiculous that we've got actual rebels, what we officially call them even, on the payroll. But even more ridiculous is that many of these rebels have taken their $400 a month for a while, put in the hours to get trained by American military, and then just disappeared without a trace. In fact, just recently, a whole group of rebels on the payroll just quit altogether with all those American dollars in training, and no one has any idea where they went. Navy Captain Scott Rye was quick to tell Reuters that it's unusual for rebels to leave, and it's not indicative of the overall program. And then he actually went on to say that in support of the rebel payroll program, he said that since one of the groups left altogether at once, more than 1,000 new rebels have signed up for the program. So Rye's saying that it's great that more rebels are on the payroll right now, just right after a whole bunch took the American dollars and ran. He didn't seem to worry about that. He didn't seem to think, maybe more rebels might do the exact same thing.
Intelligence officials in Pakistan say a local commander from the terrorist network Islamic State has admitted receiving funds transferred via the U.S. He made the confession while being interrogated. RT's Ganesh Chichkan has the story.
The Pakistani police arrested an ISIS commander, Yusuf al-Salafi, and sources told Pakistan's Express Tribune that the commander confessed to receiving funds routed through the United States to recruit young people to fight in Syria. Al-Salafi reportedly said he received around $600 for every recruit he sent to Syria, and that he was working with the support of an imam. The paper quotes one source saying, "The U.S. has been condemning the Islamic State activities, but unfortunately has not been able to stop the funding of these organizations, which is being routed through the U.S." This report raises so many questions. First of all, is al-Salafi telling the truth? If he is, does this make U.S. banks complicit in funding terrorists? And another one, were U.S. authorities aware of this? It's no secret that just a little over a year ago, fighting ISIS was not a priority for the U.S. Washington was focused on trying to remove Bashar Assad from power. We now hear that President Obama will ask Congress for $5.3 billion to equip and train Iraqi soldiers and quote-unquote moderate Syrian rebels to fight the Islamic State militants. Over the past few years, Washington has been much criticized for not having a good idea about who exactly is doing the fighting on the side of the opposition in Syria. And many are now concerned that some part of this new package of funding and weapons could end up in the hands of ISIS.
I don't rule out anything because we do have a stake in making sure that these jihadists are not getting a permanent foothold in either Iraq or Syria, for that matter.
Even as we carry out these two missions,
We will continue to pursue a broader strategy that empowers Iraqis to confront this crisis. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. Our objective is clear. We will degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL through a comprehensive and sustained counterterrorism strategy. We don't yet have a complete strategy because it requires commitments on the part of the Iraqis as well.
Well, a little evolution of the president talking about ISIS and the strategy or lack thereof of ISIS in Iraq, ISIS in Syria. Today saying, as you just heard there, not a complete strategy yet. Waiting for the Pentagon, he said, to send him finalized plans which sparked a reaction, not on camera, but anonymously. A military official telling our Fox producer at the Pentagon after that statement today, what blank was that? We have given him lots of options. He just hasn't acted on them. This, as a new poll comes out, that says that the American public doesn't truly believe that the Obama administration has a clear strategy either. Take a look at those numbers. 71% no, 19% yes. We'll start there. Let's bring in our panel.
There are new questions being raised about the Obama administration's strategy against ISIS amid reports of U.S. bombers sent to conduct airstrikes in Iraq and Syria returning to base without having fired a single weapon repeatedly, like 70%, 75% of the time. Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, Fox News strategic analyst. And sir, good morning.
The transformation of America has been in the full swing ever since 2008. President Obama's no-show in Paris was an embarrassment for all Americans. But it also was a signal to the Islamic jihadis. It's one of many signals he's sent over the years while he's in office. Now, there's no question, we got a hell of a job ahead of us. With the Muslim Brotherhood, penetration in every one of our national security agencies, including all our intelligence agencies, and as been reported by some, our lead intelligence agency headed by a Muslim convert, this is not going to be an easy task.
Infiltration risk in our own government?
Oh, listen, our government is so infiltrated, and the Muslim Brotherhood in America has so much influence in this country. It is incredible. If Americans only took the time to do the proper research and find out just how deep this infiltration into our government is, it would just frighten you. I just gave a talk on this last weekend to some folks here in Washington, and they walked away saying, why don't we know this? And my answer is because it is not in the interest of the mainstream media's agenda to tell you.
I know we don't have as much time as you had last weekend, but real quickly, a bullet point or two, how deep does this go?
Well, it goes very deep. We have within, let's just say, the Department of Homeland Security, two of the top people there with very high-level security clearances are known to be associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. The Republican and Democratic parties are both infiltrated. Every government entity, to include the Department of Defense, have people that are known to have had associations with the Muslim Brotherhood. And, you know, Michelle Bachmann recently raised the issue of Huma Abedin, which is Hillary Clinton's closest aide, and her parents' association with the Muslim Brotherhood. And, of course, she just got blistered by her own party as well as the mainstream media, so it's bad.
The Middle East is coming apart with this administration's policy. Look at Libya. We should never have gone into Libya. Gaddafi was on our side. Look at Egypt. Morsi is now going after the Muslim Brotherhood and the radical Islamists, and we've got Muslim Brotherhood in the U.S. government today. And so look at what's going on in Syria.
Who from the Muslim Brotherhood is in the U.S. government right now?
Who?
Yes.
Oh, look, I haven't got their names exactly, but there's a list of them, at least 10 or 15 of them in the U.S. government. Homeland Security, a whole host of people. Secretary Clinton's chief of staff, who's married to Congressman Weiner. Her parents are Muslim Brotherhood, and her intuitions are in that direction. There are a whole host of people, Larry,
all right,
in this government, and I didn't come prepared to give you
no,
names,
well, listen,
because
you threw it out there. I just wanted to, because I'd not heard that on the show offered, so I wanted to just follow up. All right,
Frank Gaffney or Claire Lopez, they all know the names.
All right, General McInerney, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, though, and lending your very specific expertise to this this book from Secretary of Defense Bob Gates. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Larry, Brian.
You got.
Listen, but if they go against him, all he's going to do is replace them, right? I mean, that's the only thing because he really doesn't want this fight. It's really obvious he's not interested in it.
No.
So if his generals start to push back, they're just gone, aren't they?
Well, that, or we arrest him for treasonous activities. We have counted at least 14 different actions that he's taken that could be considered treasonous. Bringing the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood against el-Sisi in Egypt, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in Libya, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood operations in Syria. So, I mean, there's a whole list that we have put together at the Benghazi Citizens Commission on treasonous activities, not only by him, but by Kerry, by Clinton, the lying and deception of Panetta, of General Dempsey, as well as Hillary Clinton when it comes back to Benghazi.
Yeah, but
again.
come on,
So,
the reality of it, who is going to go in and put handcuffs on him? Come on.
Nobody. They're not going to do it. The Republicans are afraid of a black backlash. They said, first of all, he's black and white. He's not just black, but they're afraid of a black uprising. That's the word I get. And that's why you have Boehner, McConnell. They don't want to create any bad situation that's going to upset Obama. Obama just does what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So I hope the courts put him